Welcome to the Unleashed Life, a financial empowerment and lifestyle podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Renée Baker. After nearly 3 decades in corporate America, I took a leap of faith to pursue full-time entrepreneurship, realizing that while we can always get another title, we don't get another chance to create the life we truly desire. In each episode, we'll explore what it truly means to live unleashed, going beyond traditional finance advice to help you break free from financial constraints and societal expectations, cultivate a mindset of abundance and possibility, align your financial decisions with your personal values and lifestyle goals, and embrace authenticity in both your career and personal life. Whether you are seeking financial wisdom, entrepreneurial insights, or inspiration to live boldly, you're in the right place. Redefine success on your terms and join a community of women who refuse to dim their light. It is time to live the unleashed life. Welcome to the Unleashed Life podcast, where we empower you to break free, redefine success, and live unapologetically on your terms. I'm your host, Dr. Renée Baker, and this is huge news. Today, we have a special guest who embodies the spirit of innovation and financial empowerment, Armando Pantajo, known as the Tall Guy Tycoon. Armando is not just an investor, podcast host, influencer, and financial educator. He's a visionary who has inspired countless individuals to take charge of their financial futures. Today, we'll explore Armando's journey, hear his bold predictions in the financial world, and the invaluable lessons he's learned along the way. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur, fellow money nerd, or simply looking to enhance your financial knowledge, this episode is packed with insights you won't want to miss. So without further ado, let's dive into the questions and conversation. So welcome, Armando.
Appreciate you having me.
I'm so glad that you're here. There's so much that I want to talk about, and I know we only have so much time, but there's so much to you. So let's just get into first your background and how you became the Tall Guy Tycoon.
We were talking about this earlier. I had a page called Tall Guy Styles, and I sold a company in 2017. At the time, it was one of the biggest crypto sales in history, but now it pales in comparison to what they be now. But so I got a lot of followers. A lot of people were requesting me to help them, and so I changed my name to Tall Guy Tycoon because I've had companies in the past, and it was an 8-figure deal. So I really didn't have to do anything at that point, but it gave me this social media stuff gave me a second life after that acquisition. So so I changed my name because I knew that eventually I knew I could help people, and I was also a college instructor before that, and I love teaching. So It gave me a way to teach without having to actually go through all the politics of teaching at a university. So that's really the biggest thing, is that I'm able to teach people things. We're able to go live and almost teach almost like a university, but without all the problems.
You can be unleashed in your teaching. So before you became the Tall Guy Tycoon, and when you were Tall Guy Styles and you had your companies, what was your relationship with money like?
For years, I would say until roughly 2014, until my early 30s, I had a relationship with money that was horrible, right? And the reason why I grew up in a place of scarcity, right? Poverty. My father left when I was 3, so we didn't have a lot of resources, money or anything. Right. So when you live with that type of mindset, you live with a scarcity mindset. So everything is scarce. Money is scarce. So the problem with seeing money as scarce is that you not only see your money as scarce, you see other people's money as scarce.
Nobody got nothing.
Nobody got nothing. So how can I ask for this price for my labor if they don't have it either? Nobody has it. Money is so hard to get. Nobody has it. So you devalue yourself. You devalue your companies, your products, your services. Everything is devalued because you don't understand what the money is actually plentiful. And for years I went through that. One of my first companies was here in Tampa. Actually, it was here on 7th Street. It was called APAN Software. And we did custom software, so web development for companies here in Tampa. And my biggest problem looking back on that is I undercharged for my services for years. By a factor of 3. Because I had that scarcity mindset. I was like, we did, let's say, a website, right? I would charge $3,000 for a website. Because in my mind, I said, well, I could do this website in 3 days. And that's 3,000. That's good, right? Now, even if I had employees, even if I pay him, I'm only paying him like $800 a week. He does it a week. I'm making 2,000. But I didn't count in all the costs and all this other stuff. So I was always running at a deficit. Then sometime I would see other people's proposals for the same one. And it'd be 20, 30,000 for the same website, right?
And people are paying
And
it.
people were paying it. And that's why those companies were still in business, because they had enough profit margin to invest in advertising, developing employees, office space. I didn't have all that because I wasn't thinking big enough. I thought money was scarce. So it took me a long time. And the way I finally realized it is that at the end of that company, when it was failing, I got a business partner. He's in Tampa too. He's still my business partner.
Right.
And he came from a family of wealth. So just being around him, he would teach me about money. He was older than me. And over time, I started thinking money is plentiful, actually. It's not.
Yes,
it's not.
here.
Yeah, they print it up. So, and then you start thinking, well, then the other people have money. These companies have budgets. And you start asking for more money. And then you realize that how much you're worth and how much people have to spend. So that's the biggest thing that changed. That's the biggest mindset shift I've ever had in my life, is that my relationship with money, that mind shift of the relationship with money.
And seeing more, not as much as have more abundance, abundant mindset, not having so much of a mindset that money is not plentiful, because it is available. And let's go back a little bit, right? Because we have our money story. You had your business, but before you had your businesses, you were like me. You're an employee.
Yeah.
And you went from being an employee to transitioning into entrepreneurship. What was that journey like, and how had that experience served you as an entrepreneur, or not served you?
So actually, that journey is a little bit weird, right? Is that I got out of college and I started working. I played basketball for a little bit, but I started working for a company in Nashville called EdgeNet, and I worked for them for a while. And then I moved to Florida and worked for 3 or 4 insurance companies over 5 years. Mm-hmm. And then I said, well, that was about 8 years of corporate experience. I said, well, I want to start my own business. So I started at 8-Pen Software, right? And it was about 5 years of that, and it failed bad, because at first it did well, but because of my relationship problems with money, I ended up being in significant debt at the end of that.
Oh, wow.
So at that time, I was like, well, I guess I got to go get another job. So I said, well, if I'm gonna get a job and get my dream job. So I applied to be engineer at Google in California. So, and they approved me for an interview. They set my interview for three months from whatever the day was, 3 months out. And those interviews are tough, man. Like, I don't know how it is now, but back then they were like tough. They put you in a room with whiteboards and you have to be able to write the code on the board. So for 3 months, I went to the library for 8 hours a day and studied because I really wanted that job. So I went out there, and of course I didn't get the job, right? So I did all that work, all that stuff, and they just rejected me. So I was completely, utterly sad, right? Then the next day, AAA in Tampa calls me.
This is a little bit of a difference, but you got a phone call.
So I got to the office, and I don't know if you watch Seinfeld. You know what I'm talking about? So there's an episode where George is looking for a job, and the New York Yankees call him.
Yes, the Yankees, yes.
Yeah, and he's like, he just goes in and tells the dude whatever he says. That's kind of how my interview was. I was like leaning back down into the chair.
Oh, you weren't showing up as yourself.
No, I was. I really did, because I didn't want it. So the dude asked me a question. I was like, and then that was so funny is they hired me.
Oh yeah, because they're like,
he must have.
You just go with it.
I was like, if I get it or not, and then the recruiter calls me the next day, and she's like, she says, "Hey, they got you. You got the job. Actually, it was the highest paying engineer job in Tampa at the time.
Oh wow!
Because AAA pays their employees well. Right. They're actually a good company." And I said, "Oh, okay." She said, "What?" She was confused. She said, "You're not happy?" I said, "No, not really. I mean, I'll take it."
but this is representing.
Because I've been an entrepreneur before,
yeah.
So I went to that job, and the first day I felt like a caged lion.
Oh.
But over time, I realized AAA actually put effort into their employees. It was the best place I ever worked. They gave me enough money to where I could pay off that debt and start building it up. They actually encourage their employees to do, you can have a side job or a side business. As long as you told them, they would let you do it, and they would even help you if they could with certifications, whatever. You didn't have to. AAA is a great company. And that set me up for the next thing, right? So after I paid off all the debt, when I was at AAA, I taught at night, and those 2 salaries helped me pay off that 6-figure debt. So I said, well, I want to do another business. So I started doing both. While I was at AAA, I worked at night on this thing called ICO Ranker. So 6 months from that, we went live. 6 months after that, we sold it for 8 figures.
Oh, wow.
So now I was a millionaire. But without AAA,
without AAA, would you be a millionaire?
No, because AAA taught me how to, because at first I was like kind of wild and, but then AAA taught me how to structure data, how to think like an employee really, how to do things the right way, how to be more efficient. I didn't have those skills before the first time in my first job. And I also that was, married with my mindset shift of going from cheap, scarcity mindset to abundant mindset. So those two things actually set me up for success at the end of that AAA journey.
I love that.
So if it wasn't for those two things, I wouldn't have gotten there. So I don't ever put down 9 to 5s, ever.
That's right. Yeah.
I say, it's nothing wrong with that.
And I'm glad that you said that, because oftentimes, especially now, we hear a lot about entrepreneurship and it's so cool and it's so fun and so easy and we can do whatever we want. But those foundations, I know I spent 30 years. I would say my last company was the best firm I ever worked at. But it was because I was able to build over time so I could be here today and get comfortable too, that if we fail, get back up, because your business failed and most people will give up, take the corporate job and then be forever miserable because you're not really operating on your gifts. So then you start this new job. And then at what point did you say, okay, I have to teach people everything that I know? Was this happening while you were starting other business at AAA? When did that shift happen?
So I sold that company at the end in early 18. We actually got all the money.
Would you say 8 figures?
8 figures, the way it was structured is that we got some cash up front, and that was the bulk of it was in stock. But the stock was like vested out over several years. So I didn't get all the money till like 3 years later, because that's how the stock was vested out. It was warrants and all this stuff. And so it wasn't like I got it all at once. So we did get a lot of money up front, maybe a quarter of it. So, and I did have a business partner, so we had to, but I stayed at the job for 2.5 years after that, because I wanted to make sure I got the stocks first and able to sell them when the stock would drop. Yeah. So I made sure I got in the money, the cash they gave us, I put it in real estate and stocks, crypto, made sure I had enough income coming off to replace the job. But what really made my decision, I actually loved working at AAA. It was the best job I ever had, 7 years.
Okay.
It was the best job I ever had. I would have probably kept going, but COVID hit. And then the things I liked about it was that they had a full-court basketball court. I used to play basketball all day.
Okay.
They didn't care as long as you got your work done. So I'd play 3-4 hours. But when COVID hit, they didn't care. Well, you do your work, whatever. As long as
just be great.
Yeah. So, and there was a gym there. It was the best job I ever had. Cafeterias. So when COVID hit, all that got shut down. So I was just a work-at-home employee. I did not like that.
Yeah, you're like, this is not what I signed up for. We're
I don't need the money. And then at the same time, I had about 30,000 followers at the beginning of the pandemic. At the end, I had like 200-300.
Oh, wow.
So that pandemic and having everybody's attention, and I realized what the time I was in, and I said, well, I got to start going hard, because this is never going to be again. So I went live every day, sometimes twice a day, and that's how I got so many followers so quickly.
Like on Instagram and TikTok?
Everywhere.
You would just go live. Okay.
I would just do anything I could. And that's how I grew so fast over that year. And then during that year, to be honest, I was putting so much effort into social media that I was kind of like not doing nothing at AAA. And I came to the decision, I was like, well, I don't need the money. Right. And AAA was actually a great company to me. It's not, I don't think it's to be honest, moral. And I know some people say, I feel like when you work with a company, you have a mutual agreement and you have to honor the agreement both ways, right? So I felt like I just wasn't doing them right. They were a great company and I wasn't giving them full value. Oh. So I told them I couldn't do it anymore.
So you left in 2020. You already, technically you're a millionaire working at AAA. You're going to get everybody applying there now with the benefits. I don't know if they still have that. But then you made a decision you took advantage of an opportunity. You saw an opportunity. You took advantage of it. You now, I would say, you're an influencer. Would you say that you would?
Yeah,
I don't know how you feel about that term, but listen.
Yeah, I guess.
For the regular folks, you are an influencer. Yeah. People recognize you. And you have been able to really and talk to people and share your passion around personal finance. So let's just talk about that part. Let's talk about what it is you do, what sparked that interest, what are you talking about? And you always say, this is the huge news.
Yeah.
So let's hear the huge news on what it is that you talk about and why.
So I think what I'm talking a lot about now is really three or four things is AI, blockchain, cryptocurrency, humanoid robotics, and what's on the horizon is quantum computers. So a lot of the money, like even when I sold my company, I was on the cutting edge of blockchain back then, right? So and I realized during that time that if you were to stay ahead, if you're ahead of the crowds, there's less competition and more money. As soon as the crowds come, it's too late. So ever since then I've tried to stay ahead, right? And that's how I've turned that money from I've made in the from the acquisition to a lot more because I've always been ahead of everybody with blockchain, with humanoid robotics, with quantum computers, AI. I was able to see AI forming 2 years ago and put a lot in Nvidia's and other stocks and did extraordinarily well. So I've kind of put my career is based on like kind of almost like predicting the future, right? So whenever I say huge news is because a lot of times that those clues are found in the news.
Yes.
Right. Then you'll hear things like forming, right? Then you're like, oh, why did, like, for example, what's happening big right now is that Google, Microsoft, and a lot of the big tech companies are acquiring nuclear power facilities. And that people are like, what is that? Doesn't even make sense, on the surface, but it does because AI needs huge amounts of energy, and the companies they don't want to pay somebody. It's going to own the power, what the power suppliers or creators. So that's another opportunity, right? Is that if you read the news and you stay on top of it, the news is telling you opportunities.
Right. All those like breadcrumbs
Yeah,
are
those are
there.
breadcrumbs,
Yes.
right? And it doesn't have to be for investing. It could be for starting a business, entrepreneurship. It could be on the best areas to buy a new house in. All these things are in the news if you listen to it.
And don't get caught up with all the TikTok dancing and listen to the breadcrumbs.
The breadcrumbs are there. So I
follow
always
that.
say this is huge news. So people say, well, it's not even that big. Well, all the news is huge news if it leads to potentially you making some money or making a return on the investment. So I always say that to get people to listen.
So to that end, people may not know about, what's blockchain or cryptocurrency, and people have different ideas of it, but I've heard you explain it pretty well. So for those that don't get it, can you give us our kind of like our first grade or kindergarten explanation?
Yeah, so with cryptocurrency, one of the biggest thing about it is that actually it's very close to all-time highs today. It's 74,000 was the all-time high of Bitcoin, and right now it's at around 73. Once the election is over, it's going to rocket past there. But because it's uncertainty, people don't know which way it's going to go. But after that uncertainty is going, regardless of who wins, it's going to skyrocket. But excuse me. But blockchain is the underlying technology in cryptocurrency. So the problem with crypto is the reason why it's hard for people to understand because the explainers don't know what they're talking about. So somebody will come to you and say, you got to buy Bitcoin. And you say, why? Oh, it's a new way to money. And you're like, why? Oh, well, you can change it easy, digital money. That still doesn't make sense. Why would digital money be better than real money? See, the way people explain it to each other is wrong. It's not the ability to transfer funds back and forth. It's the blockchain technology. That's what makes Bitcoin so transformative, is that technology. And what that is that in a traditional transaction, if I go to Walmart and scan my debit card or credit card, Walmart will send communication to the bank or Visa probably and ask Visa, does Armando have this money? If I have it, Visa will send an approval back, and then Walmart will debit the money from my account. So in that transaction, there's me, there's Walmart, and there's Visa. Right, Visa has all the power, all the control. They can shut my card off if they want to.
Right.
They can, if Visa's down, we know this is happening. Oh, the network's down. We can't run credit cards. Sometimes you go into a store and they say that's because the Visa, MasterCard, whatever the credit card network is down. And it happens. It doesn't happen that much, but it does happen. Now, blockchain technology is different because it's decentralized. The transaction I explained to you earlier was a centralized transaction with Visa being in the center. So blockchain, there's nobody that can control it. There's nobody that owns it. There's no company that has any kind of control over it. The way it works is that the entire database of every transaction in crypto's history is stored on every single computer that's part of that network. That's what a Bitcoin miner is. So every person, anybody can connect their computer to the Bitcoin network, right? And you become a miner. So the first thing you do, you download all the transactions in history. Then every new transaction you store it and you validate and you process transaction. Those three things are what Bitcoin mining is. So the power of it is the entire transaction history is stored on hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of computers all over the world. And everyone has to be in agreement. Over 50% have to be in an agreement in order for that to be considered a valid transaction.
Oh, wow.
So if let's say a nuclear weapon went off in the United States, oh, God forbid, and it blew up all these computers, the network will still be available for anybody. Let's say that 90% of the computers went down that were on the Bitcoin. It was, as long as there was one computer up, then remember the whole entire database of crypto, we can always recreate the database through there.
Right.
So it makes a system that's the most secure, the most transparent, and the most accurate system known to man when it comes to storing data. No database on earth is more secure, more efficient, and as transparent as Bitcoin. Bitcoin's blockchain. And that's the reason what makes Bitcoin so powerful. It's not the currency, it's the technology under it.
Wow. Well, now you have everybody like, okay, do your research and learn about these things, because it's the underlining component. And I don't think I've ever heard it explained as well as you.
Nobody explains it like that.
So thank you for that. And you're welcome to the folks that are listening. So let's talk about your bold predictions. So you're just talking about what you say, Bitcoin is at like 73, you said?
Yeah.
But you just made a big, bold prediction at InvestFest.
250.
Yeah, you said 250. So let's get into that, and let's talk about. You had social media going wild, by the way, when you talked about that. So how did you get there? What led you to that conclusion? And let's just talk about that bold prediction.
Yeah. So one of the things, the problem in humans is that there's two things that humans don't really understand well. It's because of our evolutionary history, is that humans can't really comprehend exponential growth, and they can't comprehend speed. Right. That's why if you're in a car, the only thing you feel is the car accelerating. Once it reaches a speed, you don't really feel it. Humans feel acceleration, Definitely. So unless an asset is moving up quickly, people can't see where it's going. So Bitcoin's kind of been stable for the last, let's say, 7-8 months. It's been stuck between like 50 and 65. So people say, it's not going nowhere. So people can't see what's happening, the underlying things that are happening. Right now, Bitcoin's at 73. Last week it was at 60. That's a $10,000. It was a $10,000 jump in a week, right? So my prediction is based on roughly three things. One is the election being over. So, and but it's hard for me to say this without looking like I'm political.
Yeah, there's people, because they can't see beyond this, but there's so much more there.
Yeah, so regardless of how you feel personally about Trump or Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I was like, don't start no Trump now.
Trump has came out more positive about cryptocurrency in general than Kamala Harris has, and that's nothing bad about either candidate. That's not saying either candidate is better for crypto. That it just means that the market expects the person who's been talking about it more to be more pro crypto. So if he wins, the market will expect him to do these things for cryptocurrency. So because of that, it's going to go as soon as if he does get elected. It's a big if. We're going to see it go up rapidly the day after. Then we're going to see it march to 100,000 by the end of the year. So now the key thing here, the second reason, is that what we can tell by, we're looking at that blockchain. Remember all the transactions there. We can tell who's buying, who's holding, what wallets have what cryptos in them, or Bitcoin, what wallets have Bitcoin in them. And what we know is that only banks, institutions, and wealthy have been accumulating Bitcoin over the last 2 years. Retail hasn't come in. Retail is a big influx of capital.
Right.
That's why if you go to your job, you go to work, you go to your friends, nobody's talking about it like they were last time, because retail investors haven't come in. That usually brings a lot of hype and a lot of money into the system. It hasn't happened yet. If we get to 100 before that hype alone is going to get it to 150, 200. So, and then the third thing is that once we move into 2025, we've never seen a situation in which there's been ETFs, there's been institutional players.
Right.
And remember those banks and those institutions, they have to fund those ETFs, so they have to buy Bitcoin from somewhere. So we've never seen a situation where this many players were involved in Bitcoin at 18 months after the halving, which was April of this year.
Okay.
So those three things is that the election, retail investors coming in early next year, late this year, and the environment is going to push it probably past 250. I bet when it's all said and done, that 250 prediction will be conservative.
Well, listen, you can't see, but you're smiling because you believe what you say. And I'll tell you that just reading the comments, and I follow you, people are really excited about it. So while there may be some people who don't see the possibilities, you've mapped out and your analytical mind has said, so it'll be interesting to see what happens here. And I thought it was interesting that you also talked about exchange traded funds and how they're being part of it more mainstream. So,
people can now, for the first time ever, is they can use their 401ks easily, press one button, and now they're invested in Bitcoin. That's never happened in Bitcoin's history. So,
but people don't know enough to do it, and they could be missing out on opportunities. Is that what we're hearing? What are you saying?
Yeah, I mean, like Bitcoin's going to be like any other opportunities that if you're not on top of the information flow, you're going to miss it, right? You can't wait for in investing in business. You can't wait for the information to flow to you. Because by the time it gets to you, it's too late. You have to actively pursue the information.
Yeah.
Listening to podcasts like this or going to events. If you just sit back and wait, by the time your friend tells you in a barbershop, it's too late.
It's too late. And
you're on the wrong side of the equation.
And that's the thing, is trying to get ahead of things. Pay attention to those breadcrumbs, because when you're out here, and I always say, by the time that the how-to book is written, it's too late. So we don't want that. As we wrap up, so I like that you always say, here's the huge news, but what's the huge news with the predictions that you made that individuals and entrepreneurs need to be aware of as they're navigating their financial futures?
The biggest thing is AI. It's going to change a lot of people's lives. So you have to stay on top of that. And I encourage people this is one of those technologies that you can't just say, I'm not gonna use it. Or you can't.
It's here.
It's too late. It's already part of society. It's like being in the 80s saying, I'm not gonna use a computer. Well, you're just gonna get farther and farther behind. Your systems is gonna get old, and everything you do is gonna get old. You have to be on top of that stuff. So everybody needs to start implementing AI wherever they can, whether it's at work, at home, in your investments. You have to start trying to train yourself on it right now, because it's not going anywhere.
It's not going anywhere, and it's been moving fast. When I was still in corporate in 23, it wasn't anything that we talked about. In my business, I'm so grateful for having AI and the access and the productivity, and still learning it, obviously.
In corporate world, is a little bit resistant to it now. But if you're a small business, that actually gives you an advantage.
I love it.
Yeah, you can work. You can. So, in corporate world, they call it a force multiplier. Is that you can have 1 or 2 or 3 employees, and you can use tools and services, whatever, and the productivity that they put out can be multiplied by these things. And AI can multiply 10 times sometimes. One person can be 10 people.
That's right.
If you use it the right way.
Be smart about it. Use it strategically, not just to respond to emails.
Yeah,
so
that's what people do.
The people need to use it more broadly.
Yeah, it's a lot more.
So much more strategic.
You can use to analyze Excel worksheets, data. It's more than just responding to emails and
writing.
Yeah, it's a lot more than that.
So much more, especially the volume of data that it can analyze quickly and synthesize. So with that, let's do some fun things. Let's do a quick lightning round session as we wrap up.
Right.
You ready for it? What's the best $100 you ever spent?
It goes back to my cheap days, I guess. It could tell me an important lesson is that back when I had my software company, I had I used to have to use Photoshop to do website images or logos, whatever I was working on for a client. And I had this pirated version of Photoshop I downloaded off a bit. And it worked okay, but let's say every 2 days, it would crash. Whatever I was working on for 3 hours, just gone. I started over. And it didn't auto save, right? Once it crashed, that was it. So I lost for 2 years. I worked like that because I didn't want to spend $100 a month on Photoshop.
Oh my gosh.
So one day I said, man, I can't do this. But this is after 2 years of losing work hours and hours. Yeah, and I said, I'm just gonna pay for it. I paid for it, and I came to a realization. I said, man, all those hours that I was trying to waste it, I could have just paid for this 2 years ago, and I'd been way better off. So sometimes you have to just pay something, right? And that taught me an important lesson. Now I don't do that. I just make sure if I get to a tool I need, I just pay for it. If it's going to increase productivity, it's worth the money.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, don't keep suffering. The financial book that's most influenced you most, and why?
Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah, why?
Because that was like the beginning of my journey to move. Like, because the way I grew up is that my family, I'm sure for any poor family, the way they teach about money is completely wrong.
Yes.
And Rich Dad Poor Dad showed me the first other perspective that I've ever seen, and it kind of like led me on a path of entrepreneurship, trying to make more money, trying to find ways to increase my money or whatever net worth. So that was the most influential book I ever had.
All right, last lightning question. What's one piece of conventional financial wisdom you completely disagree with?
There's a lot of. Let me think about it, because I don't want to say the 401k one, but there's a few. Let me think.
Is that
I don't think people should. I don't think people should max out their 401ks. I believe 401k is it's a safety net.
Right.
And of course, you should match what the company does, but you have to be proactive about your investments, because there's a reason why when you're at work, the bank sends people in and try to get you to increase your, because they
It's a breadcrumb.
they receive 2% off of your 2 to 3% off your 401k every year, regardless of performance. The average person is $180,000, $180,000 over the lifetime of someone's. For every single person that's in a 401k, the bank that runs the 401k receives $180,000 out of that. So, let's say you got to $1 million, right, over 30 years. 20% of that was lost in fees over those years. And you don't even realize it's happening, because it happens through the mutual funds. It happens back end. You don't even see it on the statement, but it's happening. So I think people should take a more proactive approach to their investments. Use 401k for what it is, a safety net. Do the company match. Maybe a little bit more, but you got to be more proactive. That can't be your only.
Yeah, don't rely on. No one's coming to save you.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. So as we wrapped up, what's one? I want to know, what's a piece of advice you would give our listeners who are ready to unleash their potential when it comes to investing and really transforming their financial future?
Say it one more time.
So what's a powerful piece of advice that you would give those who are listening so they can unleash their potential when it comes to investing and begin to transform their financial future?
I would say the first thing you need knowledge, and make sure you understand what you're doing when it comes to investment. Sometimes you want to have too much knowledge, and the reason why is because when you're in a situation where you're invested in a stock, crypto, real estate, or whatever, if you don't have the knowledge or the understanding of the process, what happens is that those knowledge gaps in your head will get filled with panic or emotion.
Yes.
And you'll start making bad decisions. So you have to make sure you know what you're doing. Make sure you really understand the process of whatever you're invested in, and just make sure that you try to don't leave any holes for emotion to get in. Right, just be very emotionless when you make financial decisions.
I think thank you for that. I think the emotions get in the way of a lot of decision making.
A lot. Most decision making.
Listening to everybody else and picking up on their emotions and making decisions that are not informed.
That's why, like I said, right now, me and you are sitting in this office, and we saw somebody run by panicking, we would panic.
Right.
We're like, where's this dude go? We try to run out with him.
Yeah.
So a lot of times people would just take off running.
Right.
Not even know what they're running from.
Yeah, like, where are you running from? But that does happen in life, right?
Yeah.
Like, people, the stock market responds to that. Like, oh no, what's happening? People then start responding. Retail investors get all jittery. Everyone's dumping. Then the smart people are buying. Because we follow the herd. And when you separate yourself from the sea of sameness, what a way to unleash your potential in life.
Exactly.
So with that, I want to say thank you for sharing just a bit of your information with us. How can people find you and follow you so they can keep up with you?
Anywhere it's Tall Guy Tycoon. That's on all social media platforms. TALLGUYTYCOON. And it's anywhere. So
thank you. And we'll put that information in the show notes. We'll see you next. You have Argentina coming up, and you have the Black Wealth Summit. I know this will be. I will be there. Yes, and Cedric will be visiting us soon. But we'll be having more conversations. So looking forward to the Black Wealth Summit and learning more from you. So thank you, Tall Guy Tycoon, for being here today, and to be continued. All right. Thanks. Thank you for joining us on The Unleashed Life. I hope today's episode has inspired you to break free from financial constraints and societal expectations, cultivating a mindset of abundance and possibility. Remember, living unleashed means aligning your financial decisions with your personal values and embracing authenticity in both your career and personal life. It's about progress, not perfection, as we journey towards financial empowerment and the lifestyle we truly deserve. If you found today's episode to be of value, please take a moment to rate and review this podcast. Your support helps us reach more women ready to unleash their potential. And don't miss out on exclusive content and insights by signing up for our monthly newsletter at reneebaker.com. It's packed with actionable tips to help you continue your unleashed journey between episodes. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform and join our vibrant online community to share your own unleashed moments and connect with like-minded individuals. Until next time, keep breaking barriers, embrace your beautiful, authentic self, and live life unleashed. Remember, it's never too late to rewrite your financial story and step into your power with purpose. As always, be great, and the best is yet to come.